Captain Jack Miller couldn't sleep. For the third night in a row, he found himself walking the quiet halls of the Earth exploration vessel Pioneer. The ship hummed softly around him as it drifted through the empty space of the Vega system. This was supposed to be a routine survey mission. Chart the planets, check for resources, and move on. Nothing special. Jack rubbed his tired eyes and made his way to the bridge. Maybe the stars would calm his mind tonight. Captain on deck called out Lisa Reed, the night shift communications officer. She started to stand, but Jack waved her back down. At ease, Reed, just restless again. He walked to the main viewport and stared out at the darkness dotted with distant lights. Anything interesting? Lisa shook her head. Just the usual background noise, sir. Space dust and... She stopped suddenly, her hand flying to her earpiece. Wait, I'm picking up something. Jack turned, suddenly alert. What is it? A signal. Very weak. Her fingers flew across her console. It's not one of ours. Not any pattern I recognize. Put it through speakers. A soft, crackling sound filled the bridge. At first, it seemed like random noise, but then a pattern emerged. 3 short bursts, followed by a longer tone, repeating over and over. Can we clean it up? Jack asked, moving closer. Lisa worked the controls. I'm trying to run it through the universal translator, but there's not enough data for a proper language match. The static cleared slightly, and a voice, at least it sounded like a voice, came through. The words were strange, alien, but something about the tone was unmistakable. Fear, urgency, desperation. Sir, Lisa said quietly. The translator picked up one phrase that keeps repeating. She looked up at Jack, her face pale. It says, help us. Jack stood perfectly still. Where's it coming from? Tom Wells, the science officer, had silently entered the bridge during the commotion. He moved to his station and began calculations. Based on signal strength and decay, it's coming from the Orpheus Nebula. That can't be right, Jack said. Nothing lives in the Orpheus Nebula. The radiation levels are too high. Nevertheless, that's the point of origin, Tom insisted, showing Jack the data on his screen. And what's more interesting, there appears to be a planet at the heart of the nebula, one that our star charts don't show. Jack's mind raced. Protocol was clear. Unusual findings were to be reported to Earth Command for further instructions, but that would take weeks, and something about that voice. Plot a course for the Orpheus Nebula, he ordered. Lisa looked up in surprise. Sir, regulations state. I know what regulations state, Reed, but someone out there needs help, and we're the only ones who can hear them. Jack straightened his uniform. Wake the rest of the crew. I want us at full operational capacity in 30 minutes. 3 days later, the Pioneer approached the outer edge of the Orpheus Nebula. The view was breathtaking. Swirls of purple and blue gas clouds stretching out in all directions. But the beauty hid danger. Radiation levels are increasing, Tom reported from his station. Our shields can handle it for now, but I wouldn't recommend staying long. The signal is stronger here, Lisa added. I'm getting more data for the translator to work with. It's definitely a distress call. Jack nodded. Keep going. Find us a safe path to that planet. The ship pushed deeper into the nebula, the gases outside growing thicker, hiding the stars behind them. The radiation warnings beeped more frequently. Sir, Tom called out, his voice filled with disbelief. I'm getting readings of a habitable planet ahead. Oxygen atmosphere, plant life, water. It shouldn't be possible in this environment. Maybe it's not natural, Jack suggested. Show me. The main screen changed to show a small blue-green world spinning slowly in the heart of the nebula. Parts of its surface glowed with lights, cities, perhaps. We're being scanned, Lisa reported suddenly. Something from the planet is locking onto us. Before Jack could respond, the ship's communication system activated on its own. A face appeared on the main screen, humanoid, but clearly alien. Its skin was pale blue, with delicate ridges where eyebrows would be on a human. Its eyes were large and entirely black. "You came," the alien said, its voice translated by the ship's computer. "We didn't think anyone would hear us." Jack stepped forward. "I'm Captain Jack Miller of the Earth vessel Pioneer. We received your distress call." "I am Tor," the alien responded, "last council elder of Orpheus Prime. Captain Miller, you must leave immediately. It's not safe." "We came to help," Jack insisted. "No one can help us now," Tor said, his voice heavy. "They will return soon. The harvesters. They've already taken half our world. Soon, they will take the rest." "Who are the harvesters?" Jack asked. A loud alarm cut through the bridge. "Captain," Tom shouted. "Large vessel approaching from the far side of the planet. It's enormous." The screen split to show a massive ship emerging from behind the planet. It was like nothing Jack had ever seen. Dark metal stretched out for kilometers, covered in strange protrusions and lights. It resembled a giant insect, predatory and alien. "They're back," Tor whispered, terror in his voice. "You must flee, Earth ship. If they capture you, they will know of your world. They will come for you next." "Captain, they're powering weapons," Tom yelled. "Evasive maneuvers," Jack ordered. "Get us out of their firing range." The Pioneer lurched as it turned sharply away from the planet. The massive alien ship fired, a beam of energy slicing through space where they had been moments before. "They're pursuing," Lisa reported, her hands gripping her console tightly. "We can't outrun them," Tom added. "Their ship is faster than ours." Jack's mind raced. They couldn't fight, couldn't run. "The nebula," he said suddenly. "Take us deeper into the nebula. The radiation might mask our signature." The Pioneer dove into the thickest part of the gas cloud, alarms blaring as radiation levels spiked. Behind them, the massive harvester ship hesitated at the edge of the dense cloud. "It's working," Tom said. "They're not following." "Captain," Lisa called. "I'm still in contact with Tor. He's transmitting data to us, information about the harvesters. He says," she paused, her face growing grave, "he says they don't just take planets, they take entire species, and they're methodically working their way across this sector of the galaxy." Jack looked at the screen, at the data streaming in. Star maps, ship specifications, attack patterns, and projected courses that, eventually, led straight to Earth. "Record everything," he ordered quietly, "and prepare a message buoy. If we don't make it back, Earth needs to know what's coming." As the Pioneer hid in the swirling gases of the nebula, Jack Miller realized that the fate of his entire species might rest on what they did next. A simple survey mission had just become the most important journey in human history. The Pioneer limped back to Earth with its engines running at half power. The escape from the Orpheus Nebula had damaged many of the ship's systems. Captain Jack Miller stood on the bridge, his uniform wrinkled from days without rest. Behind him, in the ship's small medical bay, 3 blue-skinned aliens waited nervously, the last survivors they had managed to rescue from Orpheus Prime. "Earth orbital control on screen, Captain," Lisa announced. Jack straightened his back as the face of Admiral Wilson appeared. "Captain Miller, you're 3 weeks overdue and returning without authorization. Explain yourself." "Admiral, I need to speak with the United Earth Council immediately. We've encountered a hostile alien force that poses a direct threat to Earth." The Admiral frowned. "That's a serious claim, Miller." "I have proof, sir, and witnesses." 2 hours later, Jack found himself in the Grand Meeting Hall of the United Earth Council in Geneva. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat in a semicircle, their faces showing a mix of disbelief, concern, and suspicion. Defense Minister Robert Kane, a tall man with a military bearing, spoke first. "So you're telling us that giant alien ships are coming to harvest our planet? Do you know how that sounds, Captain?" "I know exactly how it sounds, Minister," Jack replied. "But the evidence is clear." He nodded to Tom, who activated the main screen to show the recordings they had taken of the massive harvester ship. "Computer simulations," said the Chinese representative dismissively. "This proves nothing." Jack turned to the door. "Then perhaps you'll believe them." He gestured, and Tor entered the room with the other two Orphean survivors. A wave of gasps and murmurs swept through the council. United Nations Secretary General Maria Diaz raised her hand for silence. "Let's hear what our visitors have to say." Tor stepped forward, his large black eyes scanning the room. "Your captain speaks the truth. The harvesters have destroyed 12 worlds in our sector alone. We were once a peaceful federation of colonies. Now, only a handful of my people survive." His voice trembled. "And soon, they will come for Earth." Minister Kane stood up. "Then we must prepare for war. Build more ships, weapons, defenses." "No," Maria countered. "If these harvesters are as advanced as the reports suggest, we can't hope to fight them with our current technology. We need allies, diplomacy." The room erupted into arguments. Some nations demanded immediate military action. Others called the whole thing a hoax. A few suggested surrendering to the harvesters before they even arrived. Jack watched with growing dismay as Earth's leaders bickered. This was exactly what Tor had warned him about during their journey to Earth. The harvesters targeted divided worlds. Major General Alan Blake, a decorated veteran known for his skepticism, approached Tor during a break in the proceedings. "Why Earth?" he asked bluntly. "Why would these harvesters bother with us when there must be richer worlds out there?" Tor looked at him sadly. "They don't choose planets randomly. They study, they watch. They target worlds that are divided, whose people fight amongst themselves. It makes their work easier." Blake frowned. "And how do they know which worlds are divided?" "They send scouts first. Small ships that observe but don't engage. Like the unidentified objects our satellites have been tracking for the past year," Blake murmured, his face paling. When the council reconvened, Blake took the floor. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've spent my career being cautious about extraterrestrial threats. But after speaking with Tor, I believe we are indeed in danger." He looked around the room. "And our greatest weakness isn't our technology or our defenses. It's this, right here. Our inability to work together." The room fell silent. "The harvesters are counting on our division," Jack added, stepping forward. "They expect us to fight amongst ourselves until it's too late. We need to prove them wrong." Over the next few days, the debate continued. Nations argued over resources, leadership, and strategies. But slowly, something began to change. The reality of extinction pushed old enemies to reluctant cooperation. Russia and the United States agreed to share military technology. China offered its industrial capacity. The European Union provided scientific expertise. Smaller nations contributed resources and personnel. 6 weeks after the pioneers' return, Jack stood on a platform in New York City, addressing not just the United Nations, but the entire world via broadcast. Behind him stood Tor and the other Orphean survivors, along with Earth's most prominent leaders. "The harvesters believe we are weak because we are different," Jack said, his voice carrying to billions of viewers. "They see our diversity as division. But they're wrong." He gestured to the leaders behind him. "For the first time in human history, we stand truly united, not as nations or factions, but as humans, as Earthlings." Maria Diaz stepped forward. "Today, we announced the formation of the Earth Defense Alliance. All nations, all resources, all focused on a single goal: survival." Minister Kane, once the voice of military aggression, now stood shoulder to shoulder with former adversaries. "Our scientists estimate we have less than 2 years before the harvester fleet arrives. We will be ready." Major General Blake revealed the next phase. "Operation Lighthouse begins now. A 3-part strategy to strengthen our defenses, seek allies among the stars, and develop technologies to counter the harvester threat." The response around the world wasn't universal celebration. Some protested, claiming it was all a lie to force global government. Others hoarded supplies, preparing for the worst. But for the majority, a strange new feeling began to take hold, a sense of common purpose that transcended borders and old hatreds. In a small apartment overlooking the Hudson River, Jack watched the sun set on a changed world. Tor stood beside him. "Your people surprise me," the alien said. "When we first met, you told me humans were divided, that you fought wars amongst yourselves for centuries." "We did," Jack acknowledged. "We still have our differences. Yet now you work together." Jack smiled faintly. Maybe that's the one thing the harvesters didn't count on. That the threat of them would do what nothing else could: unite us. Tor's expression was hard to read, but Jack thought he detected hope in those alien eyes. Then perhaps there is a chance after all. As night fell over Earth, lights came on in homes and buildings. But for the first time, those lights didn't just represent separate lives and nations. They were beacons of a united planet, preparing to face the darkness together. 6 months after Earth learned about the harvester threat, the planet was barely recognizable. Where once stood separate nations with guarded borders, now existed a single united front preparing for survival. Commander Diane Foster stood on the bridge of the Envoy, Earth's newest and fastest ship. Built with the combined technology of 12 nations, it was a marvel that would have been impossible just a year ago. She looked at her crew: Russian, American, Chinese, Nigerian, Brazilian, and more, all working together seamlessly. "Final checks complete," Commander reported her first officer. "We're ready for departure." Diane nodded. "Begin launch sequence." Next to her stood Tor, the Orphean elder who had become Earth's guide to the stars. His blue skin had darkened slightly during his time on Earth, adapting to the new environment. "The coordinates for the Proxima system are set," he said. "If my information is correct, they have thus far avoided harvester detection." "Let's hope they're willing to talk to us," Diane replied. The Envoy was the first of 3 ships tasked with finding potential allies among the stars. It was a desperate mission. Earth needed friends, and quickly. The ship lifted off smoothly, breaking through Earth's atmosphere and accelerating to speeds no human vessel had achieved before. As they prepared for their first jump to faster-than-light travel, Diane couldn't help but marvel at how quickly humans had advanced their technology when they worked together. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Professor James Wilson hunched over his workbench in the Global Defense Research Center. What had once been CERN in Switzerland was now the heart of Earth's scientific efforts against the harvesters. Around him, hundreds of scientists from every corner of the planet worked on different aspects of the same problem: how to fight an enemy centuries ahead of them technologically. James rubbed his tired eyes. For weeks, he had been studying the data from the harvester ship that attacked the Pioneer. Something about their communication patterns fascinated him. "You should rest," said a voice behind him. It was Jack Miller, now serving as the liaison between the military and scientific divisions. "I'm close to something," James insisted. "Look at this." He pointed to a display showing wave patterns. "The harvesters use quantum-entangled communications. That's why we can't intercept or jam their signals in normal space." Jack frowned. "Is that bad news?" "Not necessarily." James's eyes lit up with excitement. "Quantum entanglement works both ways. If we can access their network, we might be able to inject false data into their communications, make them see things that aren't there, or miss things that are." "Can you make it work?" Jack asked. James grinned. "Give me 2 months and 50 more physicists." Jack nodded. "You've got 1 month and 100 physicists." On the moon, Admiral John Stone watched as Earth's first unified space fleet took shape. Massive shipyards had been built in lunar orbit, using materials mined from the asteroid belt. Ships of all sizes were under construction, from small, fast fighters to massive carriers. "Impressive, isn't it?" said a voice with a thick Russian accent. General Petrov, once Stone's opponent in military exercises, now stood beside him as his second in command. Never thought I'd see the day when Russian and American ships flew side by side, Stone admitted. Never thought I'd see aliens, Petrov chuckled. Life is full of surprises. A young officer approached them with a tablet. Sir, the training results from the joint exercises. Stone reviewed the data and frowned. Still not good enough. These crews need to function as one unit, not as separate nations working together. What do you suggest? Petrov asked. Stone thought for a moment. Remix all the crews. No ship should have more than 10% of its crew from any single nation. Force them to overcome their differences. Petrov raised an eyebrow. That will cause chaos in the short term. We don't have long term, Stone replied grimly. The harvesters will be here in 18 months. The envoy had visited 7 potential ally worlds in 4 months. Some meetings went well, others poorly. But slowly, a coalition was forming. Diane sat across from the leader of the Centauri, a humanoid species with silver skin and 4 arms. So you'll join our alliance? The Centauri leader nodded his elongated head. The evidence your Orphean friend provides is compelling. If the harvesters are truly systematic in their conquest, we are all at risk. We don't offer much technology, Diane admitted. Earth is young compared to your civilization. But you offer something equally valuable, the Centauri replied. You offer unity. Our worlds have watched Earth for centuries. Your species fought endless wars amongst yourselves. Yet, when faced with extinction, you put aside those differences in months. That is remarkable. Tor, who had been quiet during the meeting, spoke up. This is why I believe Earth is key to stopping the harvesters. They prey on division. Humanity has proven division can be overcome. 1 year into preparations, Earth faced its first real test. An automated alert sounded in defense headquarters around the world. A harvester scout ship had entered the solar system. Jack, now General Miller, rushed to the command center beneath Geneva. Status report. Harvester vessel approaching Jupiter's orbit, reported a controller. Small ship, likely a scout. It doesn't match any of the combat vessels in the Orphean database. They're early, Jack said quietly. The main defense fleet wasn't ready. Earth's new technologies were still being tested. This could be a disaster. Admiral Stone's face appeared on the main screen. We've detected it too. Permission to engage with the Lunar Defense Force. Jack hesitated only a moment. Permission granted. But Admiral, this is our chance to show what humanity can do when united. Don't waste it. Stone nodded grimly. Fleet command to all vessels. This is not a drill. Execute Operation First Light. Throughout the solar system, ships that had once belonged to separate nations moved as one coordinated unit. Chinese sensor arrays detected the harvesters' approach. European targeting systems locked onto it. American and Russian fighters formed the first attack wave. African and South American cruisers provided backup. The harvester scout, encountering resistance where it expected none, attempted to flee. But Professor Wilson's new quantum interference technology disrupted its navigation system. In 20 minutes, it was over. The scout ship was destroyed before it could transmit any data back to its fleet. In the command center, cheers erupted. Jack allowed himself a small smile. It was a minor victory. One small scout versus a coordinated defense. But it proved something vital. Humanity could fight as one. Later that night, Jack stood with Tor on an observation deck, looking up at the stars. Your people did well today, Tor said. It was just one scout, Jack replied. The real fleet will be much harder to stop. True, but today, the harvesters lost something precious, the element of surprise, and humanity gained something even more valuable. What's that? Tor's alien face formed what Jack had learned was a smile. Hope. The day everyone feared finally arrived. 18 months after Earth first learned of the harvester threat, the main detection grid near Saturn lit up with warnings. This was no scout ship. This was an invasion force. Multiple ships detected, reported the officer at the main sensor station. 37 large vessels, and over 100 smaller craft. General Jack Miller stood at the center of Earth Defense Command, his face grim but determined. Around him, military leaders from every nation watched the massive display as red dots appeared, representing the Harvester fleet. "They're earlier than we expected," said Admiral Stone from his command ship near Jupiter. "But we're ready." Jack nodded. "Activate the defense grid. All ships to battle stations. And get me Commander Foster." Diane Foster's face appeared on a side screen. Behind her, the bridge of the Envoy bustled with activity. "We're already moving into position, General. The Centauri fleet is with us, along with ships from 6 other allied worlds." "Remember the plan," Jack said. "Let them come to us. Jupiter's gravity will slow them down and force them to spread out." Earth had spent 18 months preparing for this moment. The combined fleet of Earth and its new allies was positioned in a carefully planned formation around Jupiter. Professor Wilson's quantum interference technology was ready to disrupt Harvester communications, and most importantly, humanity was united as never before. The Harvester ships moved with eerie precision, their black, insect-like forms blotting out the stars behind them. At their center was a massive vessel 3 times larger than any other, the command ship. "They're scanning us," reported a sensor officer. "Their formation is changing." On the main screen, the Harvester fleet shifted into an attack pattern. They had clearly not expected to find an organized defense waiting for them. Admiral Stone's voice came through clearly. "All ships, hold position. Let them make the first move." Minutes ticked by intense silence. Then, without warning, the Harvester fleet accelerated. "They're attacking," shouted someone. "Steady," Jack ordered, "just like we planned." The battle began in the space around Jupiter. Harvester weapons, beams of energy that could slice through metal like paper, lashed out at the human-alien alliance. But Earth's ships, protected by shields designed with help from their allies, held firm. "Return fire," ordered Admiral Stone. "All batteries." The Earth fleet responded with weapons of their own. Missiles with special warheads designed to penetrate Harvester shields. Energy cannons that targeted the weak points identified by Tor and the Orpheans. The space around Jupiter lit up with explosions and weapons fire. Ships from both sides took damage. 3 Earth cruisers exploded in quick succession as a group of Harvester vessels broke through the first line of defense. "They're adapting to our tactics," Jack said, watching the battle unfold. "We need to activate the quantum interference now." Professor Wilson, stationed on a science vessel near the rear of the fleet, received the order. "Activating quantum interference in 3, 2, 1. Now." Throughout the Harvester fleet, communication systems suddenly filled with false data. Ships reported enemies where there were none. Orders became garbled. Their perfect formation began to break apart. "It's working," exclaimed Admiral Stone. "All ships, press the advantage." The Earth-led coalition surged forward. For the first time, the Harvesters were experiencing what so many of their victims had felt: confusion, disarray, fear. But the Harvester commander was clever. Despite the communication problems, the command ship began broadcasting a powerful override signal. Slowly, the Harvester fleet regained cohesion. "They're countering the interference," Professor Wilson reported frantically. "I need time to adjust our algorithm." Jack watched as the battle began to turn against them. The initial advantage was slipping away. More Earth ships were being hit. More allies were falling back with damage. "Admiral," Jack called to Stone, "we need to take out that command ship. It's the key to their coordination." "Agreed," Stone replied, "but our ships can't get close enough. Their point defenses are too strong." Jack made a decision. "I'm taking the Defender." The Defender was Earth's newest flagship, built with the best technology from all nations and their alien allies. It was meant to be Jack's command ship once the battle was won. "General, that's too risky," Stone protested. "The Defender is powerful, but it can't take on the command ship alone." "It won't be alone," Jack replied. He turned to his communications officer. "Get me Commander Foster." Minutes later, Jack stood on the bridge of the Defender as it accelerated toward the heart of the Harvester fleet. Flanking it were ships from the Centauri and other allied races. "All power to forward shields," Jack ordered. "Weapon systems at maximum charge. We only get one shot at this." The small attack group plunged through the chaotic battle, taking fire from all sides. 2 allied ships exploded. The Defender's shields flared blue as they absorbed hit after hit. "Shields at 60%, reported the tactical officer. 53%, 47%. "Stay on course," Jack ordered, his knuckles white as he gripped the command rail. The massive Harvester command ship grew larger on their view screen. It was firing everything it had at them now, recognizing the threat. "Shields at 30%. A massive hit rocked the Defender. Jack was thrown to the floor as part of the bridge exploded in sparks and smoke. He felt a sharp pain in his side, shrapnel from an exploding console. 20,000 kilometers to target," shouted the navigator through the smoke. Jack pulled himself up, blood seeping through his uniform. Around him, his crew, men and women from a dozen nations who would have been enemies just 2 years ago, worked together with perfect coordination despite the chaos. "Fire everything we have on my mark," Jack said, his voice steady despite the pain. "Target their central command node." The Harvester ship filled their view screen now, its massive weapons turning to finish them off. 10,000 kilometers. "Fire," Jack ordered. The Defender unleashed its full arsenal, missiles, energy beams, and a special weapon designed by Professor Wilson that targeted the quantum communication system at the heart of the Harvester ship. The command ship's shields flared and then collapsed under the assault. The Defender's weapons tore into its hull, causing cascading explosions throughout the massive vessel. "Direct hit," shouted the tactical officer. "Their central node is destroyed." Jack felt the Defender shudder as another hit struck them. Shields failing. Hull breach on decks 3 through 7. "Get us out of here," Jack ordered weakly, the pain from his wound growing worse. "Full reverse." As the Defender limped away from the mortally wounded Harvester command ship, Jack saw the effects ripple through the enemy fleet. Without their central coordination, and with the quantum interference still disrupting their remaining communications, the Harvester ships began to lose formation. Some fired on friendly vessels in confusion. Admiral Stone's voice came through the damaged comm system. "All ships, press the attack. The enemy is in disarray." Jack watched the battle turn as consciousness began to slip away from him. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was the Harvester command ship breaking apart, its destruction lighting up the space around Jupiter like a new sun being born. Jack Miller opened his eyes slowly, the bright white light above him causing him to squint. For a moment, he thought he might be dead. Then the pain in his side reminded him he was very much alive. "Welcome back, General," said a familiar voice. Jack turned his head to see Admiral Stone sitting beside his bed. They were in an orbital medical facility above Earth. Through the window, Jack could see the blue planet spinning peacefully below. "The battle?" Jack asked, his voice rough from disuse. "We won," Stone said simply. "After you took out their command ship, the remaining Harvesters tried to retreat. We destroyed most of them before they could jump to light speed. A few escaped, but they won't be back anytime soon." Jack tried to sit up but winced in pain. "Casualties?" Stone's face grew solemn. "Heavy. We lost 37 ships and nearly 20,000 personnel. The Centauri and our other allies lost almost as many." He paused. "But Earth stands, and for the first time in history, humanity fought as one." Jack nodded slowly, feeling the weight of those who had died under his command. "The Defender. Badly damaged but salvageable. Your crew got you to a medical shuttle just in time." Stone smiled slightly. "You've been unconscious for 3 weeks. There are a lot of people waiting to see you." Over the next few days, Jack's room filled with visitors. Admiral Stone, Commander Foster, Professor Wilson, leaders from Earth's nations, and representatives from their alien allies. But the most surprising visitor came on the 5th day. Tor entered the room quietly. The Orphean elder looked different somehow, more confident, less haunted. "My friend," Tor said, taking the seat beside Jack's bed. "You have done what many thought impossible." "We all did," Jack corrected him. "Every person on Earth, every one of our allies." Tor nodded. "There is something I must tell you, something the Orpheans kept hidden until now." He leaned closer. The Harvesters didn't choose their targets randomly. They specifically sought out worlds with the potential to unite the galaxy. Jack frowned. "What do you mean?" "For centuries, they have studied developing civilizations. When they identified one with the ability to bring others together, to form alliances, to inspire cooperation, they destroyed it before it could reach its potential. And Earth was one of these civilizations." Jack asked. "The most promising one they had ever found." Tor's black eyes seemed to shine. "They feared you, Jack, not for your weapons or technology, but for what you could inspire others to become. They saw in humanity a dangerous quality, the ability to overcome division in the face of a greater threat." Jack thought about this for a long moment. So all this time, they weren't just conquering for resources or territory. No, they were preserving their dominance by eliminating those who might unite against them. Tor smiled slightly. "They were right to fear you." 2 months later, Jack stood in the Great Hall of the newly constructed Galactic Concordat on Earth. Representatives from 27 different species filled the chamber, some physically present, others appearing via hologram from their distant worlds. Secretary General Maria Diaz addressed the assembly. "Today marks the beginning of a new era. The Harvester threat is not eliminated. Intelligence suggests they are regrouping in their core territories. But they face something they never expected, a united galaxy." The hall erupted in applause and various alien expressions of approval. Jack watched from the side, still using a cane to support himself as he recovered. "The Galactic Concordat will serve as both a defense alliance and a forum for cultural exchange," Maria continued. "And in honor of those who first brought us together, Earth will serve as its headquarters." After the ceremony, Jack found himself on a balcony overlooking the rebuilt city of Geneva. Professor Wilson joined him there. "Quite a view," the professor remarked. Jack nodded. "Did you ever think we'd be here, hosting representatives from across the galaxy?" "Never," Wilson admitted. 2 years ago, we didn't even know for certain that intelligent alien life existed. Now we're building alliances with them." He shook his head in wonder. "And you know what's truly remarkable? The changes here on Earth." Jack knew what he meant. The threat of the Harvesters had transformed humanity. Old enemies had become allies. Resources once spent on internal conflicts were now directed toward exploration, defense, and cooperation. Nations still existed, but the borders between them had become increasingly meaningless. "We've received a new transmission," Wilson said after a moment. "From deep within Harvester territory. It's from a species called the Viridians. They've been enslaved by the Harvesters for generations, but they've heard about what happened at Jupiter. They're asking for help to stage their own rebellion." Jack turned to look at the professor. "What did the council decide?" "They're voting tomorrow, but it's all but certain. We're going to help them." Jack smiled slightly. From receiving a plea for help to answering one. Full circle. Later that evening, Jack visited the memorial that had been built to honor those lost in the Battle of Jupiter. Names from every nation on Earth and from 7 alien worlds were etched into the circular wall. At the center stood a simple stone pedestal with the words "Unity through Diversity" carved in 100 different languages. As Jack placed his hand on the cool stone, a young officer approached him. "General Miller, sorry to disturb you, sir, but the preparations for the Viridian mission are ready for your review." Jack nodded. "Thank you, Lieutenant. I'll be there shortly." After the officer left, Jack took one more moment to look at the memorial. He thought about the journey that had brought them here. From a single distress call picked up by the Pioneer to becoming the center of a galactic alliance. From a divided world barely able to cooperate on global issues to the inspiration for dozens of species to stand against tyranny. We heard your call, Jack whispered to the names on the wall. And because of you, we found our voice. As the sun set over Earth, lights began to come on across the planet. But to Jack, they no longer represented separate nations and peoples. They were the beacons of a united world. A light in the darkness that was spreading across the stars, shaking the galaxy to its very core.